this really is the only way to travel. And it's how generations of kings, queens, princes and noblemen have arrived at the Palace of Hampton Court, where today 8 artists are lined up in front of its magnificent Baroque east front to compete in the crown jewels of art competitions. Welcome to a brand new series of Landscape Artist of the Year. 2,000 applications, 48 artists, 8 pods, and in our 10th anniversary series, some truly iconic views.
Have I painted a bridge before? No, I haven't, but there's a first for everything.
This is possibly one of the most daunting landscapes in Britain.
I'm looking at all the trains, planes, automobiles and getting a little bit stressed, to be honest.
This year, our artists have painted, drawn, printed and collaged like never before.
Literally holding everything down. Hopefully it will stay.
I just want this piece to convey the chaoticness of today. There's a lot of people, it's really hot.
And if painting an artwork in 4 hours wasn't complicated enough, they'll be under the scrutiny of our 3 judges.
The thing that's really winding me up is this sort of giant lollipop in the middle one.
Yeah.
What's going on?
With 50 landscape artist wildcards at every heat.
You're like half man, half umbrella.
Yeah, this is a new invention for today because it's so hot, isn't it?
It is hot, yeah. I feel like we're having an umbrella fight.
Yeah.
The prize our artists are competing for is a £10,000 commission to paint a landscape in the south of France, a region that's inspired some of the world's greatest painters. Our winner will retrace the steps of Van Gogh, Monet and Cézanne to create an artwork for London's Courtauld Gallery. But working through one of the hottest days of the year won't be easy.
It's like painting with treacle or concrete.
So wish them luck in this heat.
Already the backs of my knees are sweating, so I feel like it's not a good start.
And join us as we search for the next Landscape Artist of the Year.
It's like a mathematical equation, the whole place. My heart bleeds for our artists, as usual.
Blessed with glorious sunshine today, our 8 artists are textile designer Jill Hurst from Brighton, John Shave, an artist and art tutor from Norfolk who grew up in Australia, Ben McGregor, who runs a furniture company near his home in Surrey, and professional landscape artist Barry Lowenhoff from Sudbury in Suffolk.
It's such a pleasure to be here and an honour to be amongst so many other great artists.
Also happy to be here today, Batch Singh, a teacher in printmaking from Birmingham, designer Hannah Day from Stourbridge, illustrator Imogen Slater from York, and Leslie Banks, a professional artist from Glasgow.
I was feeling quite calm, but I think there's definitely adrenaline kicking in, so I won't have any more coffee.
All our artists were selected on the strength of a submitted landscape, which they've brought with them today, along with their very favourite bits of kit.
I like to sort of buy things second-hand, and I bought this nice briefcase from a car boot sale, which now carries my paints in.
This pen roll that I made years ago, which is made out of some old jeans, so it's a bit of an upcycle.
And as the sun beats down on the pods, they're looking at how to tackle today's view.
To be able to have sunshine and shadows and a building and a garden with the sunlight bouncing off bits of gold is great.
Artists, I hope you're ready to Baroque and roll. You have 4 hours to complete your challenge and your time starts now. Today's artists are presented with a side-on view of Sir Christopher Wren's 17th century Baroque palace. with each pod given a slightly different perspective on the scene. Stretching out in front of them is the Privy Garden with its lush green lawns, sculpted topiary and abundance of colourful plants and flowers bathed in strong sunlight.
The topiary is quite overwhelming, and the way that it's so geometric and the windows, I'm not really sure yet how I'm going to tackle that, but I'm definitely going to go and have a look at some different angles.
I'll be struggling with the windows and all those panes of glass, but there is some lovely colour in that garden, so I'll be all right.
A lot of the times, I like to go for a walk first and then reflect that walk through the drawing. I also use collage, so I've brought some materials about the palace. I think it gives new life to old bits of paper, I suppose.
Bach Singh gained a degree in art and design at the University of Leeds and now works at the University of Gloucestershire as technical demonstrator of printmaking. Bach's submission of a scene near his home in Handsworth took 2 weeks and uses watercolour, oils and collage to create a work reflecting the culture and intensity of the area.
Morning, Bach.
Morning.
What did you find out on your walk this morning?
The story today is that we're at a very ornate place with a lot of history.
Presumably when you're looking for stories, you're looking for something a bit sort of grittier like you had in your submission. It felt like you'd grabbed bits of the scene and collaged it together in a more creative way to add tension. Are you going to be doing that today?
I'm planning on doing something similar to that, but I do want to interpret the people and include them as part of the landscape. Who knows? Could be a mess. I'll try my best. I didn't mean for that to rhyme.
When I paint a landscape, I'm aiming for a sense of the place. I either start with orange, red, yellow, something, to get a feel of what I'm looking at.
Professional painter Leslie Banks studied fine art at Glasgow School of Art. Her submission in oils is a nocturne, painted on a recent journey to Italy's Cinque Terre, and uses heightened colour to illuminate the village of Vernazza at night.
Leslie, you started with this kind of quite fierce orange colour that's really dictating the warmth level of the picture. But is it a colour you normally work with?
Yeah, I rarely start with a white canvas.
Yeah.
So it would either be an orangey colour, red, maybe yellow.
And, I mean, the colour in your submission, the nocturnal blue sky is absolutely gorgeous, with the lightness of touch, which is quite different to the rest of the picture. It's more abstracted. Are you going to have that quality here today, where you have, like, the more described things and then the looser?
Hopefully. I've been trying to loosen up and focus on areas of the painting that can be quite tight. That's the plan.
That's a lot of windows. I mean, that's a lot of windows.
I don't think we've been in a landscape which has so much repetition in it. So, yes, a lot of windows, a lot of rectangular windows, a lot of round windows.
Yeah. It's like
a lot of conical topiary, a lot of repetition in the garden. So it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And my heart bleeds for our artists, as usual.
Also, as the pods get closer to the building looms larger in their vision. So the artists at the far end are predominantly garden with a building at the end. At this end, it's building, building, building.
I hadn't even thought of that yet. Absolutely
That's
right.
why I'm here.
It's like a mathematical equation, the whole place. So we're hoping to get a bit of that reflected in the paintings, but we'd also like to see the artists be creative and work their way through it and produce something interesting. So, yes, all to play for.
It's exciting.
I would say I'm a figurative, traditional painter, but I like to Frankenstein things together from memory or from life. Today is quite tricky because it's all about the angles, and I like to make the composition exactly how I want it.
Illustrator Imogen Slater studied art history at Cambridge and has a Master's in Fine Art from the New York Academy of Art. Imogen's submission, a painting within a painting of two figures caught between natural and virtual worlds, captures her interest in illusion and took several days to complete.
Morning, Imogen.
Morning.
I see you've just been for a walk.
Yeah, I want to make sure I've got as many different perspectives to check that I've got the right composition.
OK.
Down by the stairs, there were some really amazing angles, especially that hedge there that meets it.
OK. And I'm looking at this lovely sketch here, and
Yes,
it reminds me of your wonderful submission. But you've got that lovely sense of perspective and depth in that as well. And, of course, I mean, can't forget the strange figures lying on the ground. It's so full of story. I mean, does your work always tend to have that level of drama? And will you be looking for that
there
today?
to be a level of drama, even if it's just in the perspective.
OK.
Yeah, I don't know, we'll see.
My style, I guess, is impressionistic. I like to use kind of painterly brush effects and not pay attention to perspective or stuff having to look exactly as it appears in front of me.
During the day, Ben McGregor runs a luxury furniture company, and in the evenings and weekends, he turns to his love of painting. Ben's submission is of a road in the Wiltshire countryside, as the late afternoon sun coloured the landscape and is rendered in his semi-abstract, slightly psychedelic style.
Ben, hello.
Hi, Ty.
On this sweltering day in Hampton Court. I was just looking how you set up your painting today. You're avoiding any built-up area, really.
Well, I have decided to tackle the palace, partially, because I don't want to just ignore it. I think it's important that I show that I can do something that isn't organic.
OK. Ben, we loved your submission. It is very weird. And I must say, the way you put paint down is very idiosyncratic, but it's intriguing.
Yeah.
You're almost putting down paint to confuse us a bit, aren't you?
A little bit, yeah. I like to abstract the landscape enough. I mean, I like to just go for it.
Our 8 artists aren't the only ones painting today at Hampton Court. Setting up around the fountain across from the pods are our 50 landscape artist wildcards, and they've come prepared.
So I brought with me a 30-year-old easel that I bought in Edinburgh when I was a student in the 90s, but it has been in my garage for a while, so it's very happy to be in the open air.
My oil paint will start melting sooner, but I've got an umbrella for that, so I hope it's not going to be too rainy. I've no Lucky Charms with me, but I've got loads of snacks to keep me going and my lunch meal deal.
I'm fascinated to see what you're working with. Is this like packaging from your house you bought?
No, it's a cardboard box from the Skips at Hampton Court Palace.
So everyone else comes to Hampton Court Palace for a very kind of genteel, touristy day out, and you kind of went straight away bin diving?
I got someone else to bin dive.
Very good. Yeah. Very Marcel Duchamp.
Just one of these wildcards will be in the running for a coveted place in this year's semi-final. And flattery will get them everywhere.
You have a really good name.
What do you mean?
Your name, my husband's called Stephen.
What's the surname?
Mangold.
You're kidding. Your partner's called Stephen Mangold?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I'm not doing very fast work at the minute. I should be a little bit further along by now, but I think the heat isn't helping.
It looks like I haven't done that much now, but hopefully when I've collaged in some elements, it'll take up a lot of space.
I'm going to try not to do too much detail on the palace. There will be some areas I'll just leave quite loose. Thought I'd be further on, so we'll see how it goes.
At Hampton Court Palace in Surrey, things are heating up for our 8 artists.
It's hard working conditions.
And our next competitor is trying her best to keep her cool.
I think the building is a little bit daunting because there's a lot of order. I think I want to put a lot of emphasis on the gardens because I feel like that's the main feature of the space to me.
After completing a master's at Oxford School of Architecture, Hannah Day now designs and develops adventure leisure spaces. In her submission, A Street Scene of Lower Manhattan in New York City, she exaggerates vibrant tones to give the piece energy.
Hannah, welcome to Heatwave Hampton Court Palace.
Thank you very much.
Loved your underpainting, this very fierce orange coral colour.
I think it really helps to contrast with the green.
I think what we loved about your submission was the brightness and the flatness of that blue sky. It takes us slightly into a different space. It was more creative, more imaginative. And I can already see that treatment coming into play here with this brilliant composition where you've shoved the building right over there.
Yeah, very much on purpose. I think the gardens is what sings. I feel like it should be celebrated in this.
I really hope you can pull this off, Hannah.
Me too.
I really like working with charcoal pencils and a few pastels. We can have a great set of dynamic going on with the really dark shades and a little bit of colour. I might grow out of black and white eventually, but who knows?
Barry Lowenhoff studied graphic design at Canterbury College of Art and enjoyed a 45-year career as a graphic designer. His submission in watercolour, charcoal and pastel of a small waterfall in Connemara, Western Ireland, uses both bold and light marks to create a sense of movement in the landscape.
Barry, you put in this rather lovely loose, is it watercolour?
It's actually watercolour and liquid charcoal. It does have a nice
It looks
texture.
very painterly and lovely. Barry, let's talk about your submission. You've got the water and then you've got the texture of the pine trees. You wish you were there, rather. Yeah. We loved it for those choices you made. You're working with a graphic material.
Yes.
And I get this feeling with you that the trees and the water, you really like getting your teeth into those.
Yeah.
Is there something here that you can get your teeth into?
I think so, but I won't have the same sense of movement as that has got. But, you know, hopefully with a few random marks, I can give it a bit of life.
Well, I'm looking forward to your solution to a kind of interesting problem.
I just love mixing colours, really. I am attracted to oranges and those complementaries with the blues and purples. And I just love putting things next to each other, even if they're not really there.
Jill Hurst has a master's in fashion and textiles from Brighton Polytechnic and went on to a career in textile design. Her submission in acrylics is of a flower garden in Brighton's Stanmer Park and captures variation in colour and form using the pinks and textures of the surrounding buildings.
Jill, it's quite a view, isn't it?
It is, it's amazing. It's got so much in it.
We know you love colour, but of course we could see that in your submission. I thought what was so gorgeous about this, that it was very descriptive. I guess you got the chance to do it again today, particularly because there is lovely patches of colour in the formal lawns.
You know, the greens, there's some acid greens, there's some very subtle purples and bright purples.
Pinks and yellow,
and the
I
pinks,
can see.
yeah.
So it's going to be a build-up of lots and lots of these different marks.
And then eventually I'll try and get some detail.
I really hope you're able to pull that off, because there's quite an amazing story to tell, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
I'm painting in oils. I've got so used to using them over the years that I can play around, change colours all the time if I need to. I want it to get a feeling of mystery to it.
After 4 decades working as an artist and art tutor, John Shave is now enjoying painting through his retirement. His submission, captured from the upstairs window of a house on Romney Marsh in Kent, is an enigmatic scene of a snowy field bathed in vivid yellow-orange winter sun.
Good morning, John.
Hello.
You've raced ahead, haven't you?
I like to just fill up the canvas with colour for a start, and then it's just a matter of readjusting.
So, I mean, one of the things we really loved about your submission is there's a lot of freshness to it. That feels quite cool, you know, quite temperate. Will you be looking to capture the heat today as well?
That's the general idea.
Okay. I feel that what I'm looking at is very, very heavy. It's very oppressive.
I might just add a little bit more of the dark colours into here, a little bit more colourful, just to make that dark area come alive a bit more.
Down from the pods, the wildcards are also coming up with standout ways of tackling the view.
I mean, I'm looking at this and it's really bouncing and singing.
I really enjoy seeing where colour can go, and I think the neon always brings out something different.
Yeah, my eyeballs are popping, thank you.
You're welcome.
So are you having a nice day, Stephen?
If anyone asks for me, tell them you haven't seen me.
OK. Would you like to paint?
I can't paint. Don't tell anybody. Do you know I host a painting show?
I've seen you.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bit of a challenge, compressing the landscape and trying to get it wide and broad and get as much of the garden in as possible.
I'm not making as much progress as I would like. I really want to finish off all of the layout and then start putting in the tone with more three-dimensional feels and looks. So I need to get a move on, basically.
I've been trying to sort out this garden, which is immaculate, but mine looks a bit swirly. I just hope I can bring it together so it doesn't just look like lots of marks on a page.
At Hampton Court, 8 artists are halfway through painting the palace's east front and privy garden.
Hello.
Hello,
Welcome
Hannah.
to the oven.
How are you getting on?
I'm trying to show the fullness of the garden without having to put every leaf and flower in.
Right.
It's just now to get the detail and also not overworking it. The classic.
Classic conundrum.
Yeah.
I started off this morning with these background buildings over there behind that gateway, and I've left them dark so that my light in the focal point is going to stand out even more.
My paints are not very well, and all my brushes, they've just turned into, like, treacle, really. So it's like painting with treacle or concrete. So I'm having to use a lot of paint, but it'll be all right.
What a setting. But for an artist, is it majestic or a right royal pain?
There's so much symmetry, so many different perspectives. We've also put them in a difficult position because they're having to deal with the formality of the garden as it's meant to be, but with the reality of the angle that they've got looking at it.
It's interesting to see who's gone for that feeling of heat. You can definitely feel it in Leslie's, can't you?
Yeah, I think Leslie's orange ground has a real sense of heat, which is only going to build as the afternoon goes on.
I just hope that she can keep it loose. I think with the elaborateness of what she's looking at, she could quite easily get bogged down in all the detail, particularly of the topiary.
Barry's behind.
Yeah.
I think it'd be quite interesting if you could carefully work his way around the page, just giving us enough detail to offset that painterly wash he's put down. I mean, that's what his submission worked of. I'm given up on him completely yet.
I mean, he wants to use charcoal. He could get some beautiful flourishes with that. He can do an awful lot with not very many marks. But there's no one denying the fact he's just gone far too slowly.
Jill's struggling with the paint, the heat. She says it's drying very quickly.
It's impossible. The paint's dry before they've even thought to get it out of the tube.
The thing with Jill is that in her submission, it's pretty much the scene that we've got today. You know, she's got the lovely grounds, flowers, and then in the distance, a red brick building.
I like Jill's sense of colour. There's something about being in the heat where things are vibrating. And the way Jill uses colour, you sense the shimmering heat.
These are big gardens, it's a big building, but John has made it seem even more vast and even more epic.
Well, John's given us this very dark, foreboding scene, but it still feels like Hampton Court Palace. It's just a fresher, looser version of it.
It's very strange standing out there in the white, shimmering heat, and John's brought the tonality right down. The colours are much darker, which I don't feel.
Is Batch cooking?
I think what's interesting with Batch is that he's done his research and he's found all these books on Hampton Court itself and the royal palaces, and he's using them in the collage. It's forethought.
I'm surprised that Batch hasn't maybe put down more of a wash or something to get us into a painterly mindset, just to sort of take us away from this very stark emptiness.
Hannah seems to have shrunk the house and enlarged the garden. Are you happy with that?
I love the way that she's created these interesting sightlines across the garden. She's really understood what's fascinating about the space.
The way she puts paint down, it's delicious. I mean, it really goes on nicely.
Ben's giving us 50 Shades of Green.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ben is essentially an abstract artist. And it's as if he's building a tapestry with different stitches in each little organic shape that he's created.
I mean, it's fabulously bonkers, really. It's like he sat there, sort of digested the scene, and it's come out organically. I don't feel that it has the order or structure or geometry of this, but it is a sense of the space in terms of how the eye moves across the landscape.
Imogen's submission showed architectural clean lines with a bit of greenery as well. She's found that, hasn't she, again?
I salute Imogen for finding a scene that was interesting to her. You know, this lovely sort of doorway leading to somewhere else, or something out of a fairy tale, and the steps leading down. I just think she's incredibly behind.
Yeah, Imogen was sort of very nervous. I think just took a long time to work her way around what we'd given her, and then eventually found it somewhere completely different. I think what she's got is intriguing, but we need a bit more.
I got the quill out and I just started putting the marks down, and I've started using collage to put in the palace and match some of the tones that I'm seeing. I just want this piece to sort of convey the chaoticness of today, which is like there's a lot of people, it's really hot.
Oh, hello. Barry.
Hello, hello.
Look at that. You were so behind earlier. Now look at it. It's quite a limited palette, apart from the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's the thinking there?
It's like looking at a black and white film or seeing a black and white photograph. They can be really fantastic, can't they? And I love the idea of trying to tease things out and making things look really rich and beautiful.
I've given the palace a slightly more pinky hue rather than going that deep orange, because I don't want it to feel too heavy at the top of the painting. I like the way it's coming together, and it's sort of painterly and abstract and quite true to my style.
Best known as one of Henry VIII's favourite residences, and for its own impressive art collection, Hampton Court Palace owes much of its appearance today to two later monarchs, Mary II and her husband, William III, who reigned together from 1689 until Mary's death in 1694.
A big problem for William was that he had asthma and couldn't live in central London. They came and visited Hampton Court, and William loved it.
The ageing palace needed renovation. Unable to afford a complete rebuild, the royal couple hired superstar architect Sir Christopher Wren to design an extension in the dramatic new Baroque style.
Wren was really involved in building St. Paul's Cathedral, but he was also incredibly keen to have a hand at trying to build a royal palace as well.
As well as a grand new facade, William and Mary commissioned his and hers apartments, each reached by a grand staircase.
Mary had luxurious tastes, and William liked all of the traditional trappings of a king. He even had rooms for his closest friends, his favorites.
By updating the dilapidated palace, William and Mary not only created a contemporary home, but also ensured the building's future.
I think if William and Mary hadn't come in and built this incredible extension, Hampton Court may have just fallen into further ruin, and this palace may not be here today.
In front of the Baroque palace, the Wildcards are also styling it out with their artworks.
I'm doing mixed media, so I had to bring basically half my house with me. It's not as practical as in my study, but all good fun.
And as the end of their challenge approaches, the judges are checking on their efforts.
You're looking very cool, calm and collected at this point. Is that because you've finished?
Yeah, it's as done as it can be. I overheated today a little.
Was it?
yeah, made the decision-making a little bit harder.
You know, I'm talking to other artists here. They look at those windows and think, oh, my God, I've got to put all the windows in.
You don't have to do that.
Not with watercolour.
No.
I've just been watching you put that blue into the shadows, and it's just so yummy, the way it sits on the paper.
But only one wildcard will win.
That's the big one I've been admiring all day. Very good, yes. And there's this one. That which isn't bad at all. I rather like this one.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So much, I can't believe it.
And Sue Smith's romantic, atmospheric depiction is the judge's favourite.
Today's all about excess. It's all about too much. And actually there, you just reduce it. It's really nice and quiet and sort of full of mood. So, well done.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you.
I just can't believe it. I'm so overwhelmed and so excited. I think that's because of the heat. I wasn't making the right decisions, and so I never thought in a million years that I'd win.
Sue from East Sussex enters a pool of wildcard winners from all the heats, one of whom will be picked to paint in the semi-final. Back in the pods, the artists are soldiering on with a bit of support from the family.
Wave, guys. I've just added the purple for the lavender. I think actually the palace has turned out quite well with the stripy flower pots. And that was a bit of a risk. Hopefully that's paid off.
It was always the intention to leave the orange ground shining through. I'm trying to establish the gardens and the many, many pointy hedges. Same with the windows, just trying to suggest the windows as opposed to do too much.
What I've got left to do is the thing that I've been avoiding, which is the actual palace. Do not feel like I'm on track at all. I feel like I am for the chop at this rate.
8 artists are nearing the end of their 4-hour challenge at Hampton Court Palace in Surrey.
So we're getting to the sharp end of this day. The axe is about to fall. Sorry, Anne Boleyn. How to the wire are you going to go, do you think?
Probably all the way, I imagine. Yeah.
I just realised you are using acrylics, which must have dried in about 3 seconds.
I think I've probably used about £200 worth of paint just from drying it out.
Oh, right.
It's almost done, and I don't want to go too far because I might overwork it and it'll get into a right old pickle then.
You going to finish on time?
I think this has more or less got to be it, or I'm going to start footering.
It's going to start what?
Good Scottish word for messing about. Footering.
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 Oh.
I might be in danger of overworking, so I'm not going to make any more rash decisions.
Artists, you have 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Tell them to go away, will you?
Just a little bit of tidying up, I think, before I stop.
It's not where I would like to be. I don't think I will finish.
Artists, your time is up. Please stop what you're doing and step away from your artworks.
Just one of today's 8 artists will win this heat and be one step closer to the coveted title of Landscape Artist of the Year and a £10,000 prize commission for London's Courtauld Gallery. Our winner will travel to the south of France, an area that has inspired generations of artists with its brilliant light and rich colours. They'll retrace the steps of some of the greats of art history, like Impressionist Berthe Morisot, who began work on the port of Nice in 1881.
Berthe Morisot, very, very important female artist. Many people think about Monet and Pissarro, but she was there right at the start. And in this painting itself, we see her trying to capture the movement and the light on the water. So everything is very tentative. And that's that fleeting moment that the Impressionists were so keen to capture. Morisot was quite unusual in being a woman that continued to paint after she got married and take her place in amongst important senior men. And we're looking for an artist who is equally unafraid to take their place at the table with those great artists that painted all those scenes down there.
For now, in Surrey, it's time for the judges to look at the 8 finished works. To help decide which artist to send through to this year's semi-final, their selection is narrowed to a shortlist of 3.
It's like a day of dealing with the kind of rigid conformity and the formal quality of those gardens in that building, and then the kind of artistic desire and imagination and will of the artist to bend it somehow. Leslie chose this fantastic, vibrant orange that really helps lift this picture.
I love when artists play with the underpainting, using a loud colour to work against. Here, it infuses the whole building and makes it slightly unreal. It's interesting seeing how Barry worked this one out. I think the house today just got on top of him. But I do like the mood of this monochrome.
Yeah, I love the mood. I think ultimately what we're seeing is something half-finished. With more time, he could have taken it where he wanted it to go.
Jill's just, I mean, it's a riotous celebration of colour and topiary. And these wonderful purples and the yellows, it's way, way more colourful than what we had in front of us today.
Yeah, I think Jill's got the heat, the shimmering of the colours as they bounce against each other. It's fantastic.
Whereas, John, I mean, where are we? Where has he taken us? I find it quite fearful and foreboding. And for someone who depicts nature in truthfulness, he's completely created an imaginary place.
It's got a very forlorn quality to it, with this luscious paint and quite pretty colour treatment, particularly in the sky with that gorgeous lilac. I think Batch's work is charming. I think it's helped by these painterly qualities, but I'm not getting a strong landscape reading on this. It's very difficult to compare it to the other things.
I like this journalistic, multimedia approach to what is happening today. It's about place, but it's about the people within the place.
Yeah.
And I find it amusing and entertaining.
There are so many funny moments in Hannah's painting, aren't there? I mean, those chimneys that pop up behind the hedge there, it's sort of quirky. It's a really charming work.
I think it is charming, it's amusingly done. In the beginning, the orange underpainting, it looked more contemporary. It was going in a different direction, and with the painting out of that orange, it's become more traditional, more conservative.
Whereas you look at Ben, and it really is quite obviously quirky. I mean, he's sort of found this higgledy-piggledy land. Some of the topiary look like lollipops. They've got a kind of Willy Wonka quality.
It feels weird and organic and psychedelic, but it's very well thought through and structured.
Imogen's found this really great view, and this picture has so much promise, because you can almost sense the weird light that it would have had by the time she finished it.
Yeah, with Imogen, it's quite interesting. She's come up with a really clever way of showing us the weirdness of the garden and the geometry of the house. It's remarkable how little she's done and how much she's saying.
Artists, congratulations on a fantastic day. It's been an absolute pleasure watching you work. The judges have decided on a shortlist of 3. The first artist is Jill Hurst. The second artist on the shortlist is Hannah Day. The third artist is Ben McGregor.
I didn't expect that at all, so I'm really pleased. It's a nice validation to know that you've done good work.
The judges now have the unenviable task of picking today's winner. Only one artist can go through to the semi-final. To help them, they also consider the selected artists' submissions.
Well, it's interesting that the three shortlisted artists, none of them really made the building the main event of their paintings. So the best way to deal with the building was to slightly ignore it.
There are three fantastic pictures of the garden, which also include the building.
I find with Jill's painting, the initial reaction is how beautiful I want to be in that garden. But the more I look at them, the more kind of overwhelming they become. Because there's so much colour, there's so many plants, there's so much going on.
It's just an abundance, isn't it? There's a joy in colour, and that joy spills out of the work, really.
Yeah. There are these lovely passages of yellow in the paintings today. You know, I definitely saw the purple of the lavender spotted here and there, but she's made up these little bits that allow us to take these serpentine movements through the foliage.
Hannah gave us that, obviously interested in colour as well.
Yeah.
That architectural New York scene, and now an architectural garden.
The strangeness of them comes maybe through the saturation of the colour and through the language of the painting. So there's something definitely mildly quirky about Hannah that we can't entirely put our finger on, but we find very enticing.
As we're standing here, I realise how many similarities there are in terms of repetition, vertical disruptions, the sense of space. I think the quirkiness is, you know, the amount of windows she's painted in both these paintings is extraordinary.
Ben's work is really imaginative and interesting. I mean, his submission, those figures where that child is hugging the man with his mouth open on the top right.
What?
Can you see that? This figure here looks like someone burying their head in someone's shoulder, like that.
Okay.
And the person behind is like... So I see things when I look at Ben's work. What do you make of his...
I can't not see it now.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a real particular vision, doesn't he?
And he's seen it through. He wrestled with the building and he was like, right, you can go in, but you're only getting 2 inches at the top. It is very believable, actually, in creating a sense of distance in a landscape which otherwise has very few reference points.
It's like we've stepped off the table with the Mad Hatter's Tea Party and we've gone into this crazy garden and the Queen's going to come out and shout off with his head. It is mad. It is like a tapestry, but it's foam-filled, so every little distinct section is like a little cushion.
Jill, Hannah, Ben, you should be incredibly proud to have got this far. The judges have had a very difficult decision to make today, but the artist going through to the semi-final is... Ben McGregor.
Thank you. I'm unbelievably happy to have got through. So happy. Such an honour.
Ben made such a great decision early on. He was fascinated by this garden and he really showed it to us in this exaggerated way through these shapes and forms. And really it was a masterclass in being able to say, this is what interests me and I'll make it interesting to you too. I think Ben's got a very exciting language and we want to send someone down to the south of France who knows who they are as an artist, who is confident, who could really grow and blossom.
I can't even tell you how much of a confidence boost this is. As an artist, I struggle with confidence in my own work, so yeah, it's absolutely huge for me.
If you'd like to be a pod artist in next year's competition or want to find out more about the work of our featured artists, visit our website Sky Arts Artist of the Year.tv. Next time, we're in Llanberis in North Wales, with 8 new artists ready to take the plunge.
I'm going.
Using sketchy techniques and bold moves.
I need a black on my palette or else I'm not painting at all.
Who will be deep in trouble?
So I'm feeling a bit panicked just because there's a lot to resolve in a very short space of time.
And who will be ending on a high?
Even just an hour more would have been perfect, but I think I can get it done.
Bore da, and welcome to the village of Llanberis in North Wales, where today we're at the foot of the magnificent Yr Wyddfa, or Mount Snowdon. Yes, it's that big one over there. And soon 8 artists will be preparing to scale the dizzy heights of artistic excellence. It's a brand new episode of Landscape Artist of the Year.
It's Heat 2, and we've presented 8 more artists with an incredible but challenging view.
This is possibly one of the most daunting landscapes in Britain.
The view is breathtaking. It's the perfect subject.
And as always, our artists will be working under the expert eyes of our 3 distinguished judges.
I wonder how long it takes to notice that I've just gone off into my own little art-making land.
Alongside a team of 50 landscape artist wildcards.
You're in a cult?
Well, you could say that, no.
You're having some sort of breakdown?
At stake is a £10,000 prize commission to paint a landscape of the south of France, a region which has inspired some of the world's greatest artists. Our winner will follow in the footsteps of Van Gogh, Monet, and Cézanne to create an artwork for London's prestigious Courtauld Gallery. But first, they just need to get through today.
If it goes wrong, then I might have to scrape it off and do it again.
I'm feeling a bit panicked just because there's a lot to resolve in a very short space of time.
So settle in and join us as we search for the next Landscape Artist of the Year.
So, mountains, lake, Bob's your uncle.
The best painting ever, yeah.
Today's 8 artists have made the journey from all corners of the United Kingdom. Professional painters Mark Harrison from Brighton and Claire Rose from Pembrokeshire. Urban designer Mike Biddulph from Cardiff, and recent art school graduate Kayla Spence from the Scottish Highlands.
I'm a little bit anxious for how tiring it might be, but I'm really excited.
Also joining us are business developer Anna Rowe Tyson from Hampshire, London-based artists Charlotte May, Indian-born Marcio Fernandez, and Simon Gazzard, an art teacher also from London.
Oh, I'm feeling great, really nervous, but excited, and it's really beautiful here, and I'm looking forward to getting going, yeah.
All artists were chosen on the strength of a submitted landscape, which they've brought with them today. And as they take in their surroundings and prepare their kit, they're contemplating the epic task ahead.
There could be nothing better than this today. There's a huge piece of nature in front of me, and I'm ready to start a challenge, yeah.
When I got here, the lighting was how it was, the early morning, sunlight coming through the valley. That's gone. I'll keep changing my mind about what I'm going to do, but I've decided now. Yeah, I'm going.
Artists, it's time to get those crampons on because your challenge is about to begin. You have 4 hours to complete your artworks, and your time starts now. Good luck.
As dramatic cloud rolls in over the Snowdonia mountain range, today our artist's view is out over Llyn Padarn, Llanberis' lake. Glimpses of the ruined 13th century Dolbadarn castle and the rooftop of the National Slate Museum provide breaks in the lush green, with Mount Snowdon peeking through the clouds high above.
I'm sort of wondering whether I'm going to go for that, with that building right at the bottom. I'm not going to do that.
It's so, so beautiful. I couldn't believe how lucky I was. Oh my God, shut up.
I didn't bring much with me today. I bought a few pens and maybe about 20 coloured pencils. I often draw urban environments, so I'm actually interested in the buildings, and I love rendering trees.
Mike Biddulph used his degree in urban design from Oxford Brookes University to mark out a career in town planning, where he learnt how to free sketch in ink whilst working with architects. Mike's submission, which took 20 hours, depicts overlapping tree roots at Avebury Ring in Wiltshire and was drawn with fine liner pens on cartridge paper.
So, Mike, in your submission, we loved it because of the density and the richness of it all. I love the way in which it sort of filled the entire sheet of paper. And, you know, there's a lot of information here, too. So does it sort of speak to you?
Yes, it does. I, of course, am drawn towards things that are rendered well with a pen. So,
yes.
I've drawn the castle and the museum first. The castle slightly off-centre. So I might have made a mistake.
If you know what you can give us in 4 hours,
yes,
you either
exactly.
sort of reduce the size or you reduce the density of the
yes,
ink.
that's right. So I'm going to use crayon to fill in certain areas. I might have taken on too much. We'll find out.
My style is quite loose. I can embellish on what I see if it ramps up the drama. I'm just trying to catch the feeling of a place, really. I just want to get the sense of scale.
Claire Rose studied fine art at Aberystwyth University and has been a professional artist ever since. Her submission is a snowy, sunlit street in her hometown, St Dogmaels, as a storm brews above.
Hello, Claire.
Hi.
It's a very good-looking start. You've gone big.
Yeah, it's a big painting, but I use big brushes.
I'm thinking about your submission, of course. This is a very dramatic scene.
Yes.
Something's going to happen.
Yes.
It's kind of portentous.
I was interested in that suggestion of the sun is shining, but there's trouble ahead.
There's trouble ahead. OK. And so you're going to try and imbue this picture with that same kind of loaded narrative?
The way the clouds are coming through.
Yeah. Can you set it to be sunny? It's always my preference.
OK, I will.
Nice view, isn't it?
I mean, it's just got everything you want. We've got a bit of water, we've got a mountain, we've got a steam train every now and again, we've got a village, a church, woods, fields, sheep.
Castle.
Slate mine. What more do you want? Easy to paint?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, a bit of greens,
Yeah.
bish, bosh, bash.
This kind of landscape has what the Romantics called the sublime. Sublime is so beautiful, it's almost scary.
Right.
It's almost godly in its magnificence. So I expect the best paintings ever.
Really?
Yeah, easy peasy. You know, we're sitting in front of elemental stuff here. Water, ridges, weather.
The majesty of nature.
I don't think you can go wrong. I'm sorry. I mean, you'd have to be...
You'd have to be me.
to get it wrong.
To muck this up.
Yeah.
This setting is really different from the London landscapes I usually paint. I like to have people in my pictures generally, and I try and sort of capture energy and movement in my paintings.
Born and bred Londoner Simon Gazzard worked as an architect for 20 years before retraining as an art teacher. His submission in oils with trademark figures was painted quickly with fresh, bright colours to capture the atmosphere of Hampstead Heath on a summer's day.
Simon, it seems to me you started quite quickly. Looking at your submission, you're describing the relationship between person and nature.
Yeah.
It looks like you've introduced a person.
Yeah. So usually I like some sort of figure in a painting just to introduce you to the scene.
Okay.
So I've tried to kind of go with a nice sky, mountains, a few bits of detail, and then a kind of little story.
Well, it's looking gorgeous.
Thank you.
I think about things in terms of shapes on the page. Then I like to play with blocks of colour. I paint the world as I see it. It's quite a spontaneous process.
With a degree in illustration from Camberwell College of Arts, Chesterfield-born Charlotte May works as a professional artist. Her submission in oils and acrylics is a semi-imagined landscape inspired by her childhood home in the Peak District.
Hi, Charlotte. I love the way you've started it. You've got this animated green vegetation, then now you're cutting in with detail. Is this how you always work?
So I identify the parts of the composition that are popping out at me. So I'm seeing like triangular shapes.
Okay. Let's talk about your submission. It's about depth and it's about landscape. I get the feeling that there's a strong sense of pattern in the way you create depths and shapes. So will you be finding the same thing with this landscape?
I suppose it's something that my mind automatically goes to, is picking out patterns. They become sort of blocks of colour and they layer up and intersect with each other.
I think we've given you the perfect landscape to work with.
You have. It's gorgeous.
Our 8 artists aren't the only ones painting today. Marching up the trail alongside the pods, it's our 50 landscape artist wildcards. And some of them have travelled hundreds of miles to be here.
So I'm from Ireland, I live in Dublin, and I came over on the ferry yesterday. Every direction that you look here, there's something to paint.
I'm from Portsmouth, and we had quite a journey, actually. We missed quite a few of the roads that we were supposed to turn down to get actually here in this wonderful place.
I'm from Kansas City, so smack dab in the middle of the States. But currently, we live just outside of Newmarket, so in Suffolk, England. We like the mountains, so this was a great spot.
Only one of these wildcards will have the chance to go forward for a coveted place in this year's semi-final.
What are you painting with?
I'm painting with oils.
Yeah.
But I've also got some soil here.
You've got just some soil from around here?
Soil from around here, yeah, with some linseed oil in it.
And how does it behave itself when you mix it?
I don't know. I've never done it before.
You've never done it before?
Never done it before.
You like to live by the seat of your pants?
Absolutely.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I've managed to fill the page, so I've got to now build the image out and make it look more convincing. But I think that I've got a long way to go.
Starting on details probably a bit too soon. I'm not quite happy yet. It's all two similar tones.
I've gone for a really ambitious composition, so everything could go wrong at this stage, everything.
As silvery light breaks over Llanberis in North Wales, 8 artists are busy capturing this romantic view of Mount Snowdon. Our next artist has gone for a suitably dramatic approach.
I couldn't even start a painting without having black color on my palette. I need a black on my palette or else I'm not painting at all.
With a degree in fine art from Goa College of Art in India under his belt, Marcio Fernandez is about to start a master's in painting at City and Guilds of London Art School. His submission in acrylics uses strong black lines painted in rapid brushstrokes to create an abstract, imaginary scene.
Hi, Marcio. It's a great beginning. I love the way that you've given us this kind of vignette.
Yeah.
I think what we love so much about your submission was this kind of density. Obviously, all the black lines that you've put in work against quite a dark contrast. Why is that?
I like black a lot because it puts you into a depth.
I think it suits the scene we're looking at today, which does have these quite extraordinary contrasts.
The distinctive elements, you know, like...
Yeah. And without all of that black, you're just going to have lots and lots of green. And how long did this one take?
It took me around, like, 3 hours.
Oh, so you've got time to make this and then go for a kayak.
As beautiful as the mountains are, in order to get their majesty, I'd have to work bigger than I'm working. I've decided to paint this section because it just seemed like quite a nice, interesting view to take a slice of.
Anna Rowe Tyson studied illustration at the University of Westminster and works part-time for a luxury furniture company. Her landscapes zoom in on the details of a scene, focusing on colours and shapes, as in her submission of chairs outside a cafe in Belgium.
Hello, Anna. I'm just thinking of your submission. You are very strange in your choices, in a good way. We've given you this vista, you know, Snowdon lurking in the clouds, and you've gone for some trees and some lakes. Funny enough, it looks like a Chinese landscape, and that it's very vertical. You've got no sense of where you are in it.
I just like the little bits of the lake sort of glimpsing through the trees.
Talking about this painting and then talking about your submission, it all makes sense. You're zoning in again, did you say?
I am zoning in, but I guess it's not a traditional landscape, maybe. I just like the way the colours all work together nicely.
Of course, arguing that a bunch of orange chairs on a patio is a landscape, it's difficult. But I love your approach to it.
Thank you.
All my paintings are about atmosphere and mood, through colour, through perspective, but I like to invent a lot of things as well. I'm an imaginative realist.
Mark Harrison has a postgraduate degree in illustration from Wimbledon School of Art, and after 30 years illustrating book covers, he now concentrates on his own work. Mark's submission, which took 10 days, depicts a semi-imagined empty street in the US state of Texas.
You like drama, don't you? And mood. I can tell from your submission, Mark. What we really liked was the way in which you used that sort of rusty orange to highlight and pick up across the painting. I mean, in a way, if we had a beautiful blue sky day, you'd be complaining.
I'll just give up on that and just make it a nighttime scene anyway.
Why have you got to make it a nighttime scene? Have we not given you enough?
I will often take a daylight scene and just make it into night, you know. I thought, well, actually, no, it's getting very moody now, you know, all these clouds hugging the tops of the mountains. So I thought, well, let's go for a night scene.
OK.
When I approach painting landscapes, it's all about, like, taking everything in at once. So I think I'm going to tackle the biggest peak there. I like capturing the things that you're probably going to remember the most.
Originally from Moray in the northeast of Scotland, Kayla Spence studied painting at Gray's School of Art in Aberdeen. Their submission is of Rogie Falls outside Inverness, painted with quick, intuitive, dark marks, with added motifs representing the relationship between memory and place.
Kayla, how are you feeling?
Feeling pretty good.
You've gone for this really kind of zoomed in, like it's very pronounced. What we really loved about your submission is that you presented this delicious and intoxicating, fabulous waterscape, but then these little vignettes interrupt it. You're not going to put any of the water in?
No, I was just drawn to those peaks. Like, there's so much to choose from. I think you do just kind of have to narrow it in.
Exactly. And I really like the way that you've like really gone in. It's like rugged and meaty and big, and you can really kind of get stuck in.
Oh, thank you.
Next to the pods, our wild cards are, well, being wild cards.
Sarah, OK, don't tell me. You're getting married?
Nope.
You're shy?
I'm definitely not shy.
You're in a cult?
Well, you could say that. No,
You're having some sort of breakdown?
We've suffered terribly with midgies.
Oh, it's midgies. Now you've mentioned them, I've started to feel itchy. But...
Morning, Sophie. Morning. You've gone for these quite muted tones, kind of a grey blue sky, a kind of olivey green hillscape.
I come from Cornwall, so it's quite nice just to not paint blue all the time and actually get the greys in and the purples in the landscape, and there's lots of different shades of green. And
yeah.
I haven't used charcoal for a while, but I thought it'd be good for this kind of landscape, all the clouds, so much light and shade.
So you run up and down mountains and you paint?
Not as much now, because I'm getting a bit older, you know.
How old are you?
50.
Oh, it's not old.
Yeah. It's old enough.
You met Ty?
How old's he?
Don't ask. He'll only start crying if you ask him.
He looks good for 70, so...
He does.
I still haven't painted in the sky, and that could maybe throw me off a little bit. So I think I really need to work on giving more of a range. So that's what I'm going to work on for the next 2 hours.
I think I might be a bit behind. Still don't know whether I chose the right view. I think I should have maybe worked faster to begin with.
It's not as good as I'd do it at home, you know. Normally, I'd leave that for a day to dry before I painted on top of it, but in this situation, I have to go for it.
In Snowdonia, our 8 artists are creating their own interpretations of a landscape steeped in the sublime.
Hi, Kayla. What are you working on at the moment?
I've blocked in some of the sky. The clouds are changing so much, I've just done a really quick wash, grey-blue. I want to just get some of the highlights done just to pull things forward, give it a bit of depth.
OK.
I've got a few nice sort of shadows to put in, hoping that, because acrylic dries so much darker, that I'm sort of trying to correct a couple of things, because I'm like, why has that gone so dark?
I'm really taken with your mark making.
OK. I'm kind of working across the landscape and filling it in. There are sections of the drawing where you're not quite sure, and it looks very sketchy.
You're really making me want to get in here and make my own marks on the day. Yeah, exactly. I wonder how long it'll take them to notice that I've just gone off into my own little art-making land.
It's a beautiful spot. The sun is shining. It's actually, dare I say it, quite warm. What a joy.
All the paintings have this kind of vibe of, wow, nature's done really good.
Claire has gone for a big, beautiful, gorgeous-looking scene, and she's painting a big, beautiful and gorgeous painting, is she?
Claire, I think, has really caught the majesty of the mountain. You've really got that strong sense of scale. And there's energy, there's beautiful colour, there's denseness of paint, and I think it's perfect now.
The idea that we've got this majesty, which is horizontal, and Claire's reduced it to that valley, you really get that sense of weight from the mountain.
Her mountain is almost butting the top of the frame. It's so big, she can barely contain it. Mike, is he producing good art?
Mike's making me want to sort of get in there with a little pen and do some cross-hatching, you know, very meditative. His submission took him, I don't know, 400 years. It's just these gorgeous marks.
That kind of fantastic drawing that doesn't quite suit what's in front of him. It's about space and light and distance. And so it has become illustrative.
Kayla works in a slightly more abstract way than some of the others. Is that a help when you've got 4 hours in which to paint?
Kayla's gone really hard and fast into those mountains. I mean, just get in there, make them a bit more rugged, give them a bit more life, and we should get somewhere.
I think Kayla's made a really good decision really early on. They've gone straight to what we're looking at, is this high verticality, the claustrophobia, and this sort of abstract terrain that our eye is going across.
Anna made a decision to zoom in, to ignore the epic majesty of the receding mountains, to ignore the vastness of the lake, but focus in on a smaller detail nearer to us. Was that a good decision?
Anna's obviously a person who plays with concepts and ideas of what makes landscape. And she's looked at this and gone and looked for pattern and repetition, which is paths and greenery and lakes.
Her picture is kind of contextless, and she found that a bit interesting, and now she's made me think it's interesting. I think it's just difficult at the end of the day to judge that against, you know, majesty, sublime, monumentality, and she's doing, like, the in-between bit.
Marcio's using green, which I get the sense that he doesn't use very often.
Well, green's a bit of a holiday from black. I mean, this is an artist that's just sort of obsessed by making black and is sort of quite defiant in his use of it.
I love the submission because of the balance between the painted surface, which is very rough, and I find in today's work the black line has overtaken the painted. The balance is different.
Charlotte's working with patterns and blocks of colour. Are you enjoying what she's doing?
Seeing the submission in real life, you suddenly realise it is very flat and that each bit of pattern is very much like the next, so it feels very samey as your eye goes across the surface.
I think the thing that Charlotte's going to have to contend with is monumentality. Her language has got something about it which is quite pretty, and in its flatness, it will detract from the scale that we're dealing with, and I think it's got to have a bit of oomph.
Mark says he would normally leave things to dry now for a day, but he can't do that, so he's having to change his technique.
I don't know why he's not embracing what we have here today, why he's having to turn it into something other.
Oh, I love it, though. I mean, I'm glad he's turned it into something other. There's, like, 7 other green mountains. Like, I think it's marvellous.
Simon looked at Hampstead Heath and saw a green landscape with houses and people doing stuff, and he's looked at this scene and he's seen a green landscape and there are people and there's houses.
There's something really refreshing about Simon's work, because we talk about all these artworks capturing what today is about, but we've edited out 400 people, a train, loads of cars, and Simon's the only artist here that's painting in any kind of working landscape.
Simon deals with the people quite effectively. I think he sort of suggests them, he uses them quite cleverly. He's got a lovely freshness and lightness here.
It's quite annoying when there are other people around. You don't want to be looking at the majesty of an empty landscape and someone is standing next to you eating prawn cocktail crisps. Just, yeah.
Note to the world, don't eat prawn cocktail crisps near Stephen.
Just don't come near me.
Hello.
Hey, Charlotte. What's still to do here?
Well, I'm still chipping away at the composition, and I do it by laying down shapes and layers and things like that, so I'm hoping to come out the other side before the end.
I really, really love the way that you've gone right in. I was concerned that at half-time you should stop, because you've done so well. There's a real freshness and vitality to it.
I'm trying to keep the marks gestural and vigorous and not get too tight with any of it, really.
OK, well, I think it's got a lot of power to it.
Snowdonia, Eryri in Welsh, is home to Wales's highest mountain. In the 18th century, this region became a hotspot for British holidaymakers and landscape artists.
Travelling on the continent was suddenly very hard because Britain was at war with France after the French Revolution. So people were beginning to discover Wales as a tourist destination from about the 1770s.
Including English Romantic painter J.M.W. Turner.
Turner began aged 17 making forays into Wales. And between 1792 and 1799, he made 5 trips on a little pony into what were then incredibly wild, dangerous terrain. For Turner, a great sky, a great mountain, a great lake, that was the sort of magic trio. And of course, one of the things he painted was Dolbadon Castle.
Built by the Prince of Gwynedd in the 13th century to defend against the invading English, the castle marked a defining moment in Turner's artistic journey.
Dolbadon's an example of Turner experimenting with the sublime. This idea of a landscape so awe-inspiring that it can make one feel excitedly scared in a way that's pleasurable. It's very much associated with the Romantic movement, this very personal, heightened emotional response to landscape. And Almaden is a fantastic opportunity for that because it's this great, looming, dark edifice which speaks to the imagination. For Turner, the sublime becomes something he returns to again and again, and then it never leaves. It's a sort of eye-opening moment for a very young painter.
Alongside our pod artists, the wildcards are nearing the end of their day's painting. And for some, it's decision time.
I was looking at the mountains first, and they're just stunning, so I thought I'd cover that. But then I turned round, and the lake's awesome also, so I thought I'd do them both and see which one I preferred at the end of the day.
And the judges have been checking on their endeavours.
You do capture a real sense of the majesty and the enormity of the mountains, which is quite difficult to do with pen and ink.
That's so nice of you to say so. Thank you.
Well done.
Do you always use that pink? It's pretty loud.
It is. It gives it a certain vibrancy, though, to work from as an anchor. Yeah.
But only one wildcard can win.
It really was a fantastic day today. Might I be coming in this direction? Congratulations, you are welcome today.
And Sophie Ryder's robust, blocky panorama is the judges' overall favourite.
You really managed to keep a strong sense of the place and the drama and the grandeur. It's stylised, it's different, but it's here. Well done.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm amazed. I was just expecting to sit and paint and have a lovely day, and the fact I've won this is just the icing on the cake.
Sophie from Hale in Cornwall enters a pool of wildcard winners, one of whom will be picked to paint in the semi-final.
Hello. Hi. Good boy. Just gonna get it done. Thank you. Love you. Love you. Bye, Kate.
I think that I've got the sky well on its way now. Somehow, when you get the sky right, then everything else kind of follows on from the sky.
Painting is taking shape bit by bit. We're trying to get trees into it, the bushes, and tiny houses in the background there.
The lake has been either quite bright or quite dark, so choosing which version of the lake to paint has been a little bit challenging. So the changing light has been a struggle, I'm not going to lie.
So I'm feeling a bit panicked just because there's a lot to resolve in a very short space of time. I'm struggling with making the water look like water at the moment. So, yeah, panicking.
Eight artists are nearing the end of their lakeside landscape challenge in Llanberis in North Wales.
So this is a very relaxing pod to be in, because some people are really panicking they're not going to finish, but you just look as calm as a cucumber.
Basically, 80% is done, and I'm left with a bit of borders on the trees and to show a bit of depth. And I guess that's it.
Well, good. Enjoy the last few serene moments here. It's a beautiful place to be, isn't it?
Indeed.
I didn't really have a clear idea of how this was going to turn out. I've done what I can. Fingers crossed.
Just an hour more would have been perfect, but yeah, I think I can get it done.
It's all right, yeah. It's about as good as I could do, I think, on the day.
Artists, you have 5 minutes left. 5 minutes.
Oh.
It's exciting.
Fiddling around at the end.
I'll probably make a mess of it, should leave it alone.
Artists, your time is up. Please stop what you're doing and step away from your easels.
Really ready for a cup of tea.
Today's definitely been one of those days that exists kind of on its own in a small pocket away from your normal life. Yeah, it definitely feels a bit unreal.
Just one of these 8 artists will win today's heat and be in the running for the coveted title of Landscape Artist of the Year and a £10,000 commission for London's Courtauld Gallery. The prize will take them to the south of France, a region that has inspired generations of artists with its dazzling light and breathtaking colours. They'll retrace the steps of some of the greats of art history, like post-impressionist Henri Matisse, who started visiting the region in the early 1900s.
Matisse was an endlessly experimental artist. He worked with Fauvism, which is very much about describing a landscape through colour. How do we know this beach is hot? Let's paint it red. So Matisse gets to the south of France, and this is really the place where he starts to look at the natural world in its kind of most bold and vivacious form. We want an artist who really is able to be their best selves in the south of France. This is where art took huge steps forward. We need the artist to kind of walk in those footsteps, to take on that challenge.
For now, in North Wales, it's time for the judges to look at the 8 finished works. To help decide which artist to send through to this year's semi-final, they narrow their selection to a shortlist of 3.
I feel like we gave our artists such an incredible view today that all of them responded really well, and they all understood that it was about feeling.
Yeah.
So Claire, I think, really took us right there, wanting to get that sort of sense of awe and drama in the landscape.
Yeah. What I think Claire's done very well is the format. You know, we do get a sense of this incredibly high landscape and looking down into the water and being compressed by the weight of the landscape.
And that adds to its scale and enormity.
I'm really pleased that Mike cropped his page, actually, because the intensity he's been able to achieve in the trees is really beautiful.
What we love is his mark making with monochrome and with the black ink. But actually, the green is really intense. Does it have a strong sense of place here in North Wales? I'm not sure.
Whereas Kayla's mountains really feel like North Wales. I mean, there's sort of an intensity to them.
The choice of composition was great. It feels very simple, but it really gives you a punch in the gut.
I think Anna, on the other hand, was maybe overawed by nature and then chose a sort of passageway through. I think the paint is excellent. I mean, it's incredibly beautiful.
It's interesting. She's gone through this place. You don't know what it is or where it is, but every element is so beautifully and delicately painted.
Marzio, I love the intensity of it. I love the way in which he uses black. There's a vigorousness to everything.
Marzio didn't need to paint the kayakers, I think, because it took the narrative somewhere else. He's conjured something very strange, almost prehistoric. Therefore, I find the kayaks a bit distracting.
Charlotte, I mean, very interesting way of breaking up the landscape into its constituent parts. Very different way of traversing space. You know, you can walk across these shapes and you can get through to the mountain and the sky.
I think Charlotte's work is playful. I could bounce across those pieces rather than walk across them. They're sort of poofs of marshmallow, like coloured green or something. Mark has taken me back to my exhibitions on 19th century symbolist painters.
Yeah. It's not Wales, is it? It is more Norway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love what he's done in many ways. It's very romantic. I've just got this one question in my head, which is just, why? Why?
Because it looks great. I like the fact that I can be transported to some different century in a Nordic country, and I think that shows some extraordinary sort of imagination and skill.
Simon's painting is an absolute banger. I mean, it works so well. What he's done is sophisticated because there's just a genuine honesty running throughout it. There's just some absolutely to die for passages of paint here.
Simon's choices, I think, were brilliant in part. As we come into the foreground, it becomes less abstract, less about painting. It starts more anecdotal. And then it starts getting a bit sweet and narrative.
Artists, it's been a really wonderful day, and we've enjoyed watching how you've captured this iconic scene. However, only 3 of you can go onto the shortlist. The first artist is Claire Rose. The second artist on the shortlist is Anna Rowe Tyson. And the third artist the judges have selected is Mark Harrison.
Oh.
Me? You what? I really didn't see that one coming.
The judges now have the difficult task of picking the day's winner. Only one artist can go through to the semi-final. To help them, they also consider the selected artists' submissions.
Well, what a great day. And I know we should really be concentrating on these 6 works of art, but I mean, just look at it.
I know.
It's so stunning.
It's full of foreboding, looming, dark presence.
Are you talking about the view or you 3? So, Anna's submission focused on a detail of a scene. We have no idea what the rest of that scene looks like. Today, she did the same thing.
She's just a very brilliant painter, although she picks very strange non-areas to paint. She knows how to do a lot with very little, and today, that pathway through these trees and past the water is so well executed.
Both of them, though, have chosen quite sort of unprepossessing moments. We do know that there's a whopping great big mountain behind it. I think it was really brave of Anna to leave it out entirely.
So Claire has given us the view we were set up for today.
I think Claire is able to evoke mood with light, and she showed it in her submission, that sort of bleak sky. And today, the light was tricky, but she still found that sort of silvery light that was breaking through everywhere, and it has been able to create the same mood, but with the sense of where we are geographically.
You know that the mountain range goes beyond. They're big paintings, they're very expansive, and in that expanse, there's intense drama.
Mark has given us a nocturnal scene, painted during the daytime.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
I hope I don't really encounter either one of these skies. The one in the submission looks like post-apocalyptic, sort of toxic chemical, and the one on the right is sort of like the second coming or something.
It's kind of interesting how artists use what is in front of them to make paintings they want to make. You know, why not? I look at these 2 and I think they are extraordinary, that they transport us there.
You've got an interesting selection today, because we've got somebody who seems to paint the unobvious. Someone who, you know, who gives us a big, meaty, good-looking, large canvases, and then someone who's bringing on the end of the world. Anna, Claire, Mark, all 3 of you should think of yourselves as winners today, but sadly, only one of you can go through to the semi-final. And the artist the judges have selected is Claire Rose.
I'm absolutely beside myself. I just never thought that I would win this. I'm delighted. I'm just, don't know what to say. I've got my granddaughter with me, and I'm going to celebrate with the largest glass of wine I think I can buy. Thank you so much.
We love courageous artists, and today we gave our artists this enormous mountain to paint, and Claire went, I can do that. She's very good at capturing the mood, and when we think of the commission, that's what we want the artists to do, give us a sense, absolute sense of place. Claire's a master of light and atmosphere, and she just nailed it.
Thank you so much. I cannot believe it. Oh my God.
If you'd like to be a pod artist in next year's competition, or want to find out more about the work of our featured artists, visit our website, skyartsartistoftheyear.tv. Next time, we're in Bristol.
Have I painted a bridge before? No, I haven't, but there's a first for everything.
As 8 new artists take on a gravity-defying icon of 19th century engineering.
The bridge took 30+ years to build, and we've got 4 hours to draw it.
So can any of them create a riveting work of art?
Well, it could be a complete disaster.
Or will they find it a bridge too far?
Well done, I'm having a meltdown.
Hello and welcome to Bristol, where today we're looking out over Isambard Kingdom Brunel's spectacular Clifton Suspension Bridge. Brunel famously called it my first love, my darling, which I understand, but for me is maybe a bridge too far. Welcome to a brand new episode of Landscape Artist of the Year.
It's Heat 3, and as 8 new artists enter the pods, they're confronted by a daunting and dizzying view.
Have I painted a bridge before? No, I haven't, but there's a first for everything.
Fortunately, they've brought along some friends to keep them grounded.
Until he's got his own pod.
I mean, look at that.
As always, they'll be working under the watchful gaze of our 3 distinguished judges.
So you're doing all sorts of stuff you don't normally do?
Yeah. Well, look, you've got to go for it, haven't you?
And alongside are wildcards, most of whom are playing nicely. But there's always one.
Chris, there are 50 wildcards. 49 of them are looking that way.
Yeah.
For the winning artist, the prize of a lifetime awaits. They'll be travelling to southern France, a region that's inspired some of the greats of art history, to carry out a £10,000 prize commission for the prestigious Courtauld Gallery in London. So who will create a riveting work of art?
I've got a larger brush at home.
That really
I
slap
couldn't even
it on.
fit it in the car.
And who will burn their bridges?
I think just the expanse of that view, well, it could be a complete disaster.
In Bristol today, we're joined by 8 competitors. Sarah Harris, a mixed media artist from Warrington. Printmaker Ian Cox, who lives in Devon. Stockport oil painter and illustrator Jonathan Hargreaves. And Kieran Guckian, a former web designer from Dublin.
I switched careers about just over a year ago, going to art full-time, so to get this is huge, yeah.
Also taking part today are Dan Wall, an expressionist painter from right here in Bristol. Gloucestershire artist Charlotte Kenyon, Chris Priestley, a writer and painter who lives in Cambridge, and from St Neots, contemporary landscape artist Jo Rance.
I'm feeling excited, but fingers crossed I don't make something rubbish on the telly.
Each artist has been chosen on the strength of a submission artwork, which they've brought along to display in their pods. And as they get set for the competition ahead...
Oh, no. Failed at the first point. I can't even put my apron on.
Each has their own strategy for success.
Mostly I'm aiming to not paint something bad, something that I'm not going to immediately destroy, which happens quite a lot.
Today's unusual item is Till, who is my best friend and familiar, and he's decided to come along as well and do his own painting. In case mine is rubbish, he's going to enter on my behalf.
Artists, you have 4 hours to complete your artworks, and your time starts now.
Can we take photos now? Can I go a bit further down there?
Perched on the terrace of the historic Avon Gorge Hotel, high above the valley, today's artists are confronted by a breathtaking feat of 19th century engineering.
Look at that.
The dramatic span of Clifton Suspension Bridge dominates their view, stretching across the gorge above the pods. Brunel's towers frame either end, standing tall atop the densely wooded and vertigo-inducing valley sides that plunge to the River Avon below.
It's all kind of very dramatic. The bridge took 30+ years to build, and we've got 4 hours to draw it.
I like to get things just the way they are. So I'm a bit concerned about the number of trees, because that can cause problems.
Today's view is marvellous in some respects, but potentially treacherous in others. So I am doing a panorama. It's a panorama, basically.
Jonathan Hargreaves cycled for Team GB before a gear change saw him become a full-time painter. His submission shows the view over Cadiz from the bell tower of the Spanish city's cathedral.
Hi, Jonathan. You're right in here with all this architectural detail.
Yeah. I love the idea of something that's panoramic, engaging. Those things really float my boat.
And it's difficult because the bridge is so bloody enormous. And I think actually this foregrounding gives you a jumping-off point for your eye to settle.
It does. The initial photograph is slightly fisheye, so there's a bend.
And then we go to your fabulous submission, which
Thank
again
you.
has got the same sort of perspectival drive.
Yes.
You've given us this fabulous window. We're rushing over the view.
It's just very large brushstrokes that imply sort of stonework.
I mean, this one is like...
I've got a larger brush at home.
That really
I
slap
couldn't even
it on.
fit it in the car.
That's so funny. It's like for doing your downstairs loo.
I'm very emotional when I paint. I think what sets my work apart from other artists is probably the struggle that goes into it.
Born and bred Bristolian Dan Wall describes herself as a classic tormented artist. Her expressive submission in oils is of Glencoe's Three Sisters and represents the close bond she shares with her own.
Hi, Dan. I feel like I've come in at the end of the challenge. What are you going to do with the rest of the 4 hours?
I don't know. Like, sometimes I start painting and it doesn't go right, and I sort of have this tantrum. So this could be my tantrum piece.
Oh, I see.
I'm such an emotional painter, so I'm just winging it.
Well, your submission made us feel that you weren't winging it. Just the way in which the paint is applied and the layering, it's got a real vitality to it.
Thank you.
So today, what made you decide that you wanted to focus on that section there?
Things sort of have an energy, and so I'm just going with her. I just kind of feel like this...
female.
All great things are female.
Oh, well, that's true, but I didn't know about Bridget.
No, she's a she.
OK.
So, yeah, she's singing.
Spectacular, isn't it?
It is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, and a lot of it has to do with sort of angles, where it's sort of looking up at a bridge and there's a kind of abyss. It's just beautiful.
And this sort of wall of green that's facing us. It's a really steep drop, isn't it, down to the Avon?
I mean, it's fantastic. There is a problem, of course. It's very wide.
Right.
And it's very deep.
Right.
So a lot of editing has got to take place. And also, the sun is sort of coming in and out, and that's also problematic. But that's, you know, the joy of painting outside in plein air. It's a beautiful structure. Who built it?
The person with the best name of any name ever that ever existed. Isambard Kingdom Brunel.
I mean, with a middle name like Kingdom, you're set to do great things.
Oh, yeah. Got a light.
While I go off to check my girders, our next artist is busy solving the puzzle of today's view.
When I'm painting a landscape, I almost treat it like a jigsaw, kind of just build it, and then, fingers crossed, something that looks like what I'm trying to paint actually comes out.
Jo Rance is an artist with a love of rural landscapes. Working in acrylics, she constructs an image in brightly coloured and textured patches, as in her vivid depiction of Dartmoor.
I can see a bit about where you're headed because of your glorious submission.
Yeah.
I really remember this work because I really loved this sort of interplay that you had between something that felt like a tapestry or a textile.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you really thought about like the texture and the feeling of a landscape.
Yeah, I try and take the forms from the actual landscape. As soon as I've got the sort of jigsaw of the painting down and the areas and everything, I can go in and I do like stippling and like little marks.
And that gives us that tapestry feeling because they're all resisting each other.
Yeah.
When I'm painting a landscape, I'm trying to capture a feeling of that place. Like, what does it feel like to be there? So, yeah, today I want to get the deepness of that gorge somehow. Yeah, basically.
Irishman Kieran Guckian became a full-time artist just 12 months ago. His atmospheric landscape depicts a mountain ridge and deep ravine in County Wicklow, and he's also aiming to get to the bottom of things today.
Hi, Kieran. It's a very strange composition. You've decided to go for, like, the armpit, in the sense of where the tower and the bridge meet.
Yeah. What interests me is the way it sits in the landscape, and having the railway tunnel at the bottom really shows the height of this whole place. I like the way you can see just, like, how deep that is.
So, Kieran, let's talk about your submission.
Yeah.
It is a stunning bit of painting. It's very dramatic. You're using a lot of contrast.
That's up in a place called Glendalough, and that cliff face, when the sun hits over, it goes completely into shadow. And then as the day goes, bits come up.
So today's painting will be a similar thing where you will be waiting for it to do certain things that you want it to do and capture those bits?
Yeah, if I can, yeah.
Okay.
Just along the gorge, another 50 artists are also preparing to stare into the abyss. Our fearless wildcards.
I haven't painted outside before, and it was really interesting to come and see the bridge in real life. You feel like how it's strong and powerful. There's lots of history behind this bridge. Yeah.
We're on a slope, which is interesting, and there's a tree. Chainsaw would be good.
A place in the semi-final could be on the cards for the artist who produces the judge's favourite landscape. And as ever, it pays to be prepared.
I am all set for today. I've got my pastels, 2 flasks, lunch nibbles. I've got my easel with the leg that falls off. Hopefully it's not going to blow over, because if it blows over, the leg will fall off.
Let's hope our wildcards come up with something absolutely gorgeous. Sorry.
It is tricky with all its changing light. I'm working a bit bigger than some other people, so it just adds to the complexity.
My textures and patterns come from what I see, you know, light and dark. The sunlight going in and out, it's fine painting-wise, it's just quite hot.
And Jo isn't the only artist feeling the heat.
You're doing great. If you want to step away from it, start bashing out another.
All right.
You can do that.
Well done, I'm having a meltdown. I've decided I'm going to start another one. I'm like, oh, for heaven's sake, I'm going down in flames on TV.
High above Bristol's Avon Gorge, 8 artists are taking on the gravity-defying span of Clifton Suspension Bridge, which should suit our next artist down to the ground.
I'm a bit of a mixture between like realism and a bit of surrealism, and I'm just looking at what shapes I can see and then see how everything else works around it.
Sarah Harris sees the world in bold combinations of shape and colour, which she translates into vibrant and imaginative works of art, as in her submission painting of an urban view in Manchester.
This is lovely and colourful and vibrant and a bit strange, and that's great. And I love the way that you've made us really think about the kind of architecture in a different way by creating these geographical shapes, which are, I guess, quite surreal, but also make sense.
Yeah, it sort of just jumped out straight away. It looked like a tetrahedron rather than a column, so I wanted to convey that in the painting.
Yeah. And a very large, distinctive submission, which really played with scale, and played with colour, and played with shape. So we're seeing you do all of that now, which is beautiful.
Yes, I like to push the colours and pick out the hues that are sort of talking to me.
It's just so vibrant. It's absolutely full of life.
I think I'm just going to try and zero in on that end of the bridge there, because it's quite a striking, monumental kind of shape, and I want to give it that heft.
Chris Priestley divides his working time between painting, writing, and illustrating children's books. His snowy submission landscape in acrylics is a view of Gonville and Caius College in Cambridge, the city he calls home.
Chris, we've given you this very wide bridge.
Yes.
And you've chosen this tower on
Yeah.
one end.
Yes, I have.
Why?
Well, OK, I think trying to get the whole bridge in, it would have ended up a strange painting. And there's something about the monumental quality of that that just interested me, to try and get the weight of that coming out of the trees.
That is also a lot of red, which seems counterintuitive.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get some underpainting through that will hopefully warm the painting up.
Right, I would like to talk about your submission, which
Okay.
is not unadjacent in composition to what you've chosen
Yeah.
today. We love this because of the structure and the weight of the building. So it's
good.
kind of interesting you've gone for the similar structure today.
Yeah.
We would like to see something as beautiful as your submission.
OK,
please.
I'll try.
On the nearby green, as always, the wildcards are doing it their way.
So, Chris, there are 50 wildcards, and 49 of them are looking that way.
Yeah.
What's wrong with the bridge?
It's just getting a bit crowded that way, really.
Right.
So I thought,
Yeah.
well, I'll have a go doing something completely different.
Yeah?
He doesn't like to follow the crowd.
Yeah, I can see that.
I like to be different.
You like to walk your own path.
Indeed.
When I saw the picture, I thought, my goodness, you know, we gave you this enormous bridge, and what have you done? You've done this tree. But when I look up from where you're sitting, you're absolutely spot on. That tree is phenomenal.
It's a very nice tree.
Yeah.
I mean, I have snuck the bridge in the corner. I'm not ignoring where you've put us.
Yeah.
Even though I was tempted.
You have an interest in skies, by the looks of it.
I like a sky.
I don't really like a bridge, if I'm completely honest.
A little unfortunate, as we've
I know.
plonked you next to one of the most famous bridges in the world.
I know, I'm just looking at the view that he had while he was building it.
OK. I feel like Isambard Kingdom Brunel. I feel like he's here, and you've gone, yeah, great bridge. Anyway, look at that sky.
With the wildcards being contrary, back in the pods, things are decidedly more black and white.
What I'm working with today is charcoal. I like working tonally, and so there's no colour to worry about. And I like working in a lot of detail, so 4 hours is going to be an interesting challenge.
Using fine charcoal pencils, Ian Cox's meticulous portrayal of Blackatore Copse in Devon took over 100 hours to complete. Needing to drastically reduce his working time today, he's come armed with a secret weapon.
When I look at your submission, the level of detail and the sharpness of focus, I would never have guessed that it starts with this level of looseness and fuzziness. And
Well, actually, I kind of need to explain that a bit. What I'm working with today is charcoal dust, and it means that I can work on quite a large scale and cover quite a lot of the work relatively quickly. And what I'll do as the thing goes on, hopefully, is to start using finer and finer charcoal pencil.
yeah, I mean, it's so impressionistic in a way, isn't it? I mean, is that what you're trying to capture at this stage? The sense of the mood and the moment.
That's right.
I'm a very precise painter. I think you would know one of my paintings from the detail, and also with the small areas of flat colour, it's a bit like an old-fashioned travel poster.
Despite living in the pastoral perfection of the Cotswolds, Charlotte Kenyon prefers to tackle cityscapes and architecture. Her gouache painting of a section of the Jodrell Bank radio telescope was completed using her signature detailed brushwork and opaque tones.
So we loved your submission, Charlotte. You show us something that's so profoundly man-made, but then this lovely sense of nature. I mean, really just with that raking light, those gorgeous shadows.
Yes, it was October,
so
it's
the end...
very autumny light.
Well, you're getting those lovely flat tones at the moment. Is this how you always work?
Yes, I have always been a meticulous painter, and gouache forces you to be a bit more formal because of the opaque, nature of it, I think, yeah.
Where I can lose myself is when I start working on the detail. So it's kind of working across the whole canvas, kind of fairly evenly, so that I don't get caught out by time.
The bridge, it might be a little bit too simple, so I've elevated the bridge to lift it up against the landscape. Personally, I don't think it's too dramatic, but we'll see.
My stated aim at the beginning was to give that end of the bridge a bit of weight. It's still got a way to go yet, and plenty of opportunity for me to do something horrendous to it.
From their precipitous position overlooking the Avon Gorge, 8 artists are depicting Bristol's famous Clifton Suspension Bridge. And as the halfway point approaches, are they happy with the decisions they've made so far?
Spent so long working out the bend and perspective of that balustrade. I've got to admit, I'm finding the stonework tricky, really tricky.
Still got quite a lot of marks to make. Currently stippling with my paintbrush. What could still go wrong? Not finishing it.
What was it that you didn't really like about this? I'm here to be your kind of painting therapist. You work through all the problems and then you won't repeat them.
I wasn't happy with, you know, the pillar. It sort of looked like it had deflated somewhat.
Yeah,
A bit like myself.
Well, listen, I think you need to fall in love with your new picture, and you can make up for the time. I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Thanks, Sarah.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I'll send you my bill later.
Okay.
So how do you think it's going?
I'm just a bit surprised that we've got this incredibly wide thing going across this very deep gorge, and so many of them are focusing on the one tower.
The paintings have such different feelings. It's extraordinary.
So Chris has given us a portrait form, one tower. How's he doing?
What I would say is that he needs to look a little bit harder, because there's something about the shape of the tower that he's not quite got. It feels a bit lightweight to me.
I think it's interesting because I sort of think the opposite. I quite like the fact that Chris doesn't really worry himself too much about the perspective and the geometry, and I worry that if he kind of overworks exactly how that piece of architecture is, then he'll lose the sense of how it feels.
Ian's submission was full of detail. We're not going to get that level of detail today, are we?
No, that submission was 100 hours. The thing that I'm slightly worried about with Ian is that he's already getting quite fussy and we're only at lunchtime. I don't think he can really help himself.
Having said that, I like the composition. You do get the expanse and the emptiness on the right, so it's all there.
Charlotte seems to find an elegance in architecture, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think it's interesting you use the word elegant. I'd use polite. It's very polite.
Oh, that's such a good word.
You're looking at me like you don't like it, do you? I do like it.
No one crosses continents to see something polite.
Maybe not. But I think I would like to see something a bit. I just
want
to
ruder.
See. I'd like, yeah,
we want it to be a bit more rude.
I want her to get into it a little bit more.
The gouache is used for illustration. Its precision, its flatness. I think Charlotte's work is very actually correct, but not particularly exciting.
I look at Kieran's two works of art, his submission, what he's doing today, and you're invited to this empty place, and it's not the main attraction. It's like, no, don't look at that. Just follow me. Have a look in there.
Yeah, Kieran loves the depths, doesn't he? He wants to go right down there, and I love the way it's coming together. I think it's rich, it's deep, it's full of story.
I think Kieran's found an elegant solution to giving us the sense of the verticality. My problem is the greens he's using, they're very flat. So I think he's got to start finding differentiation.
Jonathan is giving us that kind of wide-angle distortion thing.
He's got the sweep of the balustrade. You've got more of the expanse of the bridge. But I just feel like he's got so much left to do.
I worry that these big brushes, I've started to not look at the sort of splendour of that drawing. I'm looking at the chunkiness of the paint marks.
Jo is bringing some swirly, psychedelic... Well, are you having a good trip or a bad trip when you look at her work?
I think it's like a tapestry.
Yeah,
the way Jo puts things together, it's like, you know, she's taken little bits of textile and sewn them all together.
But funny enough, with Jo, I think she has got the sense of looking up at this rather monumental structure. And the colour is turned up to beyond 11, but the actual place, I am there, I feel it.
Then we have Dan and Till. Dan started one, she binned it, moved on to a second one.
I think Dan put so much of herself in the picture that if she's not feeling that painting, it's going nowhere. The second one feels much more spirited.
Yeah, I love the way Dan puts paint down. She's not afraid of it. But the tower takes up a central position on quite a small canvas, and it's kind of simple. She's got to work a bit more with it.
Sarah has the tower on an inverted pyramid hanging in the air.
Yeah.
Is the hovering bothering?
Ooh. Yeah, it is the Clifton Suspension Bridge.
Yeah.
It's just in a very radical language. I hope she can pull it off.
You know, give me more geometric shapes, incredibly sort of hallucinatory colours, and I'm very happy. But when it comes to judging, it's a very different way of treating landscape. And to judge that against the others, I think, will be very tricky.
You're lost in a world of trees, but toned it right down. I mean, what I'm looking at is a lot brighter, and in your world, everything's always a little bit darker.
Yeah, I think that's just I think it's just the palette I use. I've always used. Yeah. I think I tend to desaturate a little bit.
And it kind of gives it quite a moody quality.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a danger of overworking it?
Totally, 100%. Yeah.
That's invigorating. Terp's nose. Thanks, assistant.
I love that bridge, but what's that behind it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a halo, just to sort of say that this is the star of the show, and
Right.
this is what you want to look at. Sort of thing. Not look like. You don't want to look like a bridge.
The star of today's show, Clifton Suspension Bridge, is one of the UK's most famous architectural landmarks. But designed in 1831 by the 23-year-old Isambard Kingdom Brunel, from the outset, its construction was beset by problems.
Isambard was completely obsessed with detail, but he was really bad with finance. And so the project kept running out of funds.
In 1843, work on the bridge was abandoned.
It was called by many a monument to failure. The only parts that had been constructed were the stone towers and the abutments.
When Brunel died in 1859, he was one of Britain's most celebrated engineers, having designed the world's first ocean liner, numerous bridges, and the Great Western Railway. But with the project he called his first love, unfinished.
When Brunel died, the engineering community wanted to complete it as a memorial to him. So 2 engineers, John Hawkshaw and William Henry Barlow, who were working on demolishing Brunel's Hungerford footbridge in London, took Brunel's chains from that bridge and raised the funds to install them here and complete this bridge with Brunel original parts.
Finally completed in 1864, today the bridge is a Bristol icon and is currently undergoing a repaint, though fortunately there's no 4-hour time limit to worry about. Back on the green, the wildcards are nearing the end of their day's painting.
Charmaine, you've got this sort of vorticism thing going on in the sky with all the fragmentation of the clouds.
We've had a day where it's been grey at times, and then you've had a flash of blue and the sun comes out like now. So I've tried to embody a bit of everything into it.
Well, I love what you've done.
Oh,
it's a very
thank you
strong
so
piece.
Hello, Charlotte.
Hello.
Look at the bold and beautiful colours.
Yeah, so I like using the primary colours mostly and using as little kind of black and white as possible.
Fair enough. Have you chatted to many of the other artists?
I have, yeah. Everyone's really, really lovely. Painting's quite solitary some of the time, so being in a massive group of people is really nice.
It's now up to the judges to select their favourite work.
Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. I think we all agreed that you're a rather marvellous painter.
Really?
And it's Rose Dufton's portrait of a tree, with the bridge in a supporting role, that has their vote.
You have a really nice way of putting paint down, and it was kind of that sunny part of the day where everything was sort of just vibrating. It's just very delicate and very sort of evocative of today, so well done.
Totally, you got smart. Thank you so much.
No, well, it's been a pleasure watching you work.
I am feeling shocked, very happy, and like it's not real. Am I allowed to say I'm going to have a big glass of wine? Oh, yeah. Good. Okay, it might be a bottle of wine.
Rose from Leeds will go into a pool of wildcard winners to be in with a chance of a pod in the semi-final. Back on the terrace, our pod artists have entered the final hour of the competition.
I'm worried about getting a finished picture. I'm having to use bigger brushes and not take quite so long fussing over the colours.
What I've been doing for the last hour or two is putting leaves on the trees. I'd like another kind of 12 hours, but as it stands, I wouldn't be totally embarrassed.
I am finally going to try and sort the trees out. I can still do something calamitous to it, in which case it's going in the Avon Gorge.
Above the Avon Gorge, 8 artists are approaching the end of their Clifton Suspension Bridge Challenge. actually make that 9 artists.
And Till, he's got his own pod.
I know. I mean, look at that.
Is his relationship to art, you know, does he work at it like you?
No, I wish I had less of my struggle and more of his...
His laissez-faire attitude.
Exactly.
I have a few more textures to add, and I think then I'll just go in with an accent colour to sort of pull it together. There's a slight twinge of panic, but I'm keeping my cool.
The masking tape is there to stop the dust from getting onto the white border of the paper. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's OK. It'll be OK.
I don't want to overwork the painting. I'd much rather underwork it than overwork it. But on the whole, it's OK. It's OK, I think.
Artists, you have 5 minutes left. 5 minutes.
It would be quite easy to lose the light effect that I have. Just by overworking it, you know, it could be a complete disaster.
I haven't put any highlights on the trees, so I'm gonna just chuck those in, maybe make the shadows a bit deeper. But yeah, just getting through it.
If I had another 2 hours of time, I would use it, but a few minutes is not going to make any difference one way or the other.
If anything's gone wrong, it already has.
Artists, that is it. Please stop what you're doing and step away from your easels.
What a day. I think today just reaffirmed my love for painting. Everyone's been really lovely, all the other artists are lovely, and it's just been a joy, really. Cringe, but true.
Our winner today will be one step closer to the title of Landscape Artist of the Year and a £10,000 commission for London's Courtauld Gallery. The prize will take them to the south of France, following in the brushstrokes of some of the true greats of Impressionism, like Claude Monet, whose visits to the region in the 1880s led to a radical transformation in his use of colour and light.
What Monet learnt to do while he was down there, and which is apparent in this pine tree in Antibes, is how to use light to create atmosphere and distance. You've got the one tree, and between the shadow of the tree and the cool tones of the distant hills, he's created an atmosphere where you can actually smell the air. I mean, that is magical. The south of France, I mean, it's inspired so many artists to produce really revolutionary work. So we're looking for an artist who's willing to sort of really try and experiment as much as Monet did to produce something extraordinary.
For now, in the southwest of England, the judges need to decide who will make it through to the semi-final. They start by narrowing the selection down to a shortlist of 3.
I think this is one of the strongest examples that we've had if we give the artists this really kind of iconic view, and they each give us 8 very, very distinct pictures.
What I find interesting about the tower is how some of them got it and some of them didn't. And when I look at sort of Chris's work, actually there's a lightness to his that isn't quite as rooted as I think he wanted it to be.
I don't think you get that monumentality, but at the same time, I think the way that he's treated all the trees is so lively. And I think out of all of the artists today, he actually found the most dramatic shadows. In contrast, Ian's done something which is almost forlorn. I mean, this black and white noir scene of something that looks almost abandoned.
I like that Ian's tower is situated within the wooded hillside. I do miss that finesse in his submission, but it's a great sense of space. The longer I look at Charlotte's painting, it's got Chinese elements, doesn't it? Sort of that vertical scroll. I find it very illustrative, but there's a lot of invention in it as well.
I think I underestimated Charlotte. It's not as tight as her submission, and I really like that looseness. With Kieran's work, He's taken us right down to the bottom.
Yeah.
I'm lost in the story that sits around it. The observation of light and colour, I think, is really impressive.
I mean, it's a very, very dramatic crop. Like, OK, you gave me this really famous bridge. I'll give you a tiny bit. I'll give you the feet. I mean, the kind of audacity of that.
Jonathan, I mean, this is a sunny terrace in the south of France, isn't it?
He's saying, give me the job.
I think one of the artists who decided, let's give them the width. I love the way he's used that fisheye to lead us into the space.
The accomplishment of this drawing is so sophisticated, it's so clever, and then suddenly you feel like I wouldn't walk across that bridge. It's too scary, you know, like I need a bit more delineation.
It didn't surprise me to learn that Jo studied textiles.
Right, there we go.
So, you know, she's broken it down into very organic shapes, so somehow it still holds true to the fact that it was foliage and trees behind.
For me, this is the most beautiful bridge. That pale turquoise, the way that the light's falling on it, everything's just beautiful to look at. I'm really pleased that Dan had the courage to start again. She's given us a sky that feels full of feeling.
You've got an artist who is the work, and you read that through the freneticism of the way in which the paint's applied. I think Dan's been incredibly successful of bringing herself into the work.
Sarah's given us a kind of otherworldly version of today, but I don't buy the sun or whatever that is behind the tower. It just seems incongruous to me.
That bit feels incongruous.
That's the bit that I can't...
pyramid and the floating tower.
The pyramid's great. It's such a clever, inventive thing.
She was actually painting from life at some point. So a lot of coming together of disparate languages to make something remarkable.
Maybe it's a painting of what this place will look like in 200 years.
Yeah, but the question, will you walk on a floating bridge in 200 years?
With a lilac sky, yeah.
Artists, thank you all for a terrific day. You've all worked incredibly hard. I hope you're all happy with what you've managed to achieve. The judges have decided on a shortlist. The first artist is Kieran Guckian. The second artist on the shortlist is Jo Rance. And the third artist is Sarah Harris. Well done. Thank you. The judges must now choose today's winner. To help them decide, they take another look at the artist's submissions. Our picturesque valley and its Victorian bridge gave us a whole array of works of art today. Let's start with Jo, who gives us great colour.
Yeah, it's really interesting seeing how similar her submission and today's painting is. The use of emptiness with textures, but then she matches them with this crazy sort of embroidered foreground, and it works.
And I think what's really important looking at Jo's two works together is that you understand that this mark making isn't decorative. There are qualities in this that are quite literal.
Are there?
Yeah, I mean, I think, but particularly under the bridge with the brown and the green trees, that's more literal than you would expect her to do if you looked at her submission, which is a little bit further out there.
Kieran is very keen to direct our eye, it seems, in his paintings in a certain way.
His language is really full of narrative drama, but in a really quiet way. They're really enigmatic pictures.
They could be taking on Caspar David Friedrich and the notion of the sublime. You know, the whole point of the sublime is that nature's supposed to be awe-inspiring, and that's why we have that sort of fearfulness when we look at his deep, dark gorges.
So Isambard Kingdom Brunel, I think, would have recognised his bridge in Kieran's picture today. What about Sarah's bridge?
He would have recognised it in spirit. That's what he was trying to do.
Isn't his bridge the squattest, heaviest, most secure? Don't worry about it, guys. This bridge has got you.
But
has that bridge got you?
But that tower is doing exactly that. You know, that is solid, and it's full of magic. And now I look at it side by side with the submission piece. I'm captivated by all those swirls and those patterns in the top right-hand corner. You know, Sarah is an artist who's really led by things that don't interest other artists?
What interests me is that you take something like Joe's here, which clearly is not what we were looking at. Those colours weren't there, those shapes weren't particularly there. You know, she's taken what she sees and she's changed it.
Yes.
Because that's what interests her. And there comes a point where you change something so much, you either take people with you or you don't.
So it's just where the artist decides to take us. And Joe's example, the things she's painting disintegrated to pattern and decoration. With Sarah, the things she's looking at disintegrated to symbolism and playing with form.
So, you know, artists are often leading the way, and, you know, that's what we would like our artists to do.
Joe, Kieran, Sarah, congratulations on getting to this stage. It's a real achievement to get to the shortlist, but only one of you can go through to the semi-final, and that artist is... Kieran Guckian.
I'm in total shock, honestly. I was not expecting to win today. It's amazing, yeah.
Well done.
Thank you so much. It means everything, because it can be scary at times, you know, trying to do this full-time, and you can doubt yourself, so huge confidence boost, yeah. It's absolutely, yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Kieran's got a really strong grasp of what makes a really good landscape painting. He's got a really delicate touch, he's really good at composition, and he looks really, really hard. In sending our winning artist to the south of France, we're not looking for an artist that's going to repeat or imitate what's come before. And I think that really intense looking gives me a confidence that he can give us heat, dry lands, vineyards, mountains, and blue sea. Very confident.
If you'd like to take part in next year's competition or want to discover more about the work of our artists, visit skyartsartistoftheyear.tv. Next time, join us and 8 new artists in the heart of London for our liveliest landscape ever.
There's a lot going on. With 4 hours, it's tight.
Who will keep their cool?
What will be now. The die is cast.
And who will let the pressure go to their head?
I look forward to completing it without collapsing.